"You're not a true fan." That's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot, along with "a true fan would know that," or "a true fan would never." There seem to be a lot of expectations placed upon the true fan as to what they would or would not do. But what is a true fan actually, and how do you know if you are one, or conversely, if you aren't? And more importantly, does it matter? This is Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy, and let's dive into the crux of fandom itself and try to find the true fan. Firstly, it must be acknowledged that fan encompasses all things one can be a fan of. Art, sports, nerd culture, wine, shipping, anything. This concept of there being a genuine follower permeates them all. So at its core, what is a fan? Well, the definition reads, a person who has a strong interest in or admiration for a particular person or thing. However, it does originally derive from the term fanatic, which does not have a positive association, as that term comes coupled with images of mania and obsession. But as for the more modern definition, it is more positive, though some people still view certain fans' levels of interest as fanatic. But what will be deemed fanatic will vary from person to person based upon their own sense of propriety. So the definition states that one must have a strong interest in the fandom in question. But what constitutes strong? Is strong based upon knowledge? Must the true fan know everything there is to know about their interest? Have they seen every episode, watched every game? Can they name every drummer in a band's lineup throughout their history? How much knowledge is required to qualify as a true fan? This is one of the areas where people find themselves getting into arguments. Oh, a true fan would know that, but would they? The thing with knowledge is there are a lot of avenues and branches to explore. Let's take comics as an example. Perhaps you love Batman and wish to expand your knowledge. Well, there are many routes you could take. You could try and read all the critical stories, arcs, or celebrated authors. You could look into following which artists were celebrated and iconic. You could explore the behind-the-scenes history of those writing and creating Batman. You could branch off into the numerous film and television adaptations, which then have their own behind-the-scenes stories. You could also seek out the academic to see how Batman is used as a tool of philosophy, or even follow the exploits of those who dress as Batman in real life, and note what effects that has had. And the list goes on. Basically, there's a lot to know about Batman, and it can take a lot of time and potentially resources to find out, if one is so inclined and has those resources to spare. So even if someone purports to know everything, probably they don't. Knowing more simply proves that one cares enough to pursue additional information or has the time and resources to do so. But that person's level of enjoyment can be just as high and as genuine as someone who knows significantly less. Everybody starts somewhere. So really, how much a true fan should know is kind of an arbitrary benchmark. There is some basic knowledge you would expect a fan to know, and a fan would want to know just due to their own basic interest, i.e. Batman is Bruce Wayne. Spoilers. His parents were killed in front of him. He's had Robins, etc. But if someone, for example, hasn't seen an episode of the 90s animated series, that doesn't mean they aren't a fan. Perhaps they aren't aware of it. Perhaps adaptations aren't their thing. Perhaps they're purists who only want to read comics. It is possible to engage with and only have an affinity for certain aspects of a fandom, which raises the question for some, does that make one less or more of a fan than someone else? Which brings us to the next thing fans are often judged on. Loyalty. How loyal is the true fan? Do they have to stick with something no matter how bad it becomes? Do you still have to like and root for a team even if they've never won a single game? Do you have to go see the band every time they come to town? For some, the answer is yes, because fandom implies some level of engagement. i.e., if there's a movie coming out, you'll probably go see it. But do you have to see it opening night? For some, being their opening night, lining up for that phone or book release is how they show their dedication. It's an actual tangible expression of their fandom, being as ride or die as possible. This can lead to those who have seen a film earlier than others or root for a team that loses to feel a sense of superiority to those who approach fandom from a slightly more relaxed standpoint. Yeah, they'll go see Fantastic Beasts, but maybe in 2 weeks after the crowds are gone. Yeah, they like the Leafs, but they'd also like it if they won too. These fans can come into conflict because one seems to demand more of the product than the other, namely quality, while the former will always engage, which some will argue can lead them to being used or taken advantage of. However, at the same time, their passion and dedication can be part of what keeps their favorite things going. Both of these fans may feel just as attached to something, but one is willing to step back and take a break, and the other will cling and support no matter what. But does complete loyalty make you a truer fan? or a less critically engaged one? Or is there some kind of middle ground in between? But let's dive into participation. Different than loyalty, this is how much one engages in fandom, i.e. logs into a forum, buys a comic or CD/music subscription, etc. Some people participate very actively, following a band from city to city, buying not only the book when it comes out, but the special limited edition cover and the tie-in adult coloring book. They've written essays, blogs, or stories about their favorite things. So does getting involved make you a true fan? While it's true that a fan will want to engage in some level of activity with their chosen fandom, there is also the question of access. From the aforementioned list, it is clear some of these things cost money, more money than a lot of people have access to. You may want to get that special edition cover, but you may also have to pay your rent. Another resource participation can take up is time. Again, not something everyone has or can dedicate to their passions. As a result, many must choose practicality over fandom. The expectation of participation can lead to hierarchies within fan communities, with those who have been to certain events or collected certain items looking down on those who have not. And sometimes these things can become benchmarks that people feel they need to achieve in order to become part of this exclusive club. For many, however, fandom all boils down to enthusiasm. How much do you love your fandom, and how do you show it? Have you made a full costume complete with accurate battle sword? Have you mastered the opening theme on your piano to play on command? Is your whole face and body painted and ready for the game? For some, the answer had better be yes. There are people who are extremely extroverted, who can get their passions to the forefront in a variety of creative and colorful ways that can be a lot of fun, not just for them, but for those around them. Seeing a really good cosplay can be amazing, but not wanting to ever do one yourself doesn't necessarily mean you love Harley Quinn any less than the next person. Some fans are more introverted, or prefer to show their enthusiasm in other, quieter ways, or more anonymous ways, such as the fanfiction author who's written hundreds of pieces but no one knows who they are. It's easy for those who are loud and out there to mistake a perceived quietness for disinterest, which can lead to assumptions that the person not on their feet screaming at a concert isn't having a good time, which isn't necessarily the case. They might be, but they also may have a crippling fear of kicking over their drink with their foot and having it run all over someone's purse. Because that's what happens when you force enthusiasm. You ruin someone's purse. There are, of course, numerous other measures, but what does it all mean? Why is there pressure at all to be a true fan? Well, it can come from multiple fronts. The negative media front when things go wrong, i.e. bullying, which is something not only no fan but no person should do. No matter the level of fandom, a person can get over-invested in something, and that can manifest in attacks or cruelty. It is most likely safe to say that those who do such things are working through their own issues, perhaps in their minds on behalf of the fandom, or perhaps simply to stir up some trouble. But by doing so, they are ultimately maligning and misrepresenting the fandoms of which they are a part. Another source of conflict, the majority of it in fact, comes from within fandom itself. Fandoms dividing themselves into factions along arbitrary lines, with some falling inside and others out. This unfortunately can lead to some feeling scared or intimidated by certain fandoms and not wanting to get involved, or environments growing so toxic or specialized that people end up leaving a fandom. All these different stratifications can also mean that everyone ends up breaking off into similar or like-minded groups, and that lessens intermingling and hence the type of interaction, which can make the levels of fandom even more dissonant. It's important to note that you can be a fan of multiple things and enjoy a different type of fan relationship with each of them. You might know everything about Star Trek, but only a little about Star Wars. You may be down to spend thousands cosplaying, but not so much on, say, some tickets for a basketball game, even though you wouldn't mind going. The truth is, the true fan is a myth, an illusion that people can strive for or hold others up against, but there is no real benchmark, only a bizarre combination of all the different expectations that people have placed upon fandom. There are no true fans, or conversely, if you look at it another way, there are far more than you think. Different ones who are all approaching their fandoms from a wealth of perspectives, levels of engagement, and with different objections and expectations. Not all of these will coincide, which is why fans so often clash. That and people within a group like to feel that they are important to the group, hence the jockeying for status and validity. But really, fandom should be fun. If there is one rule of fandom, it should be to enjoy yourself. If someone knows more than you or seems to, or is willing to see every episode again on the big screen for the 25th year re-release and you're not, that's fine. Fandom isn't a contest, but rather an excuse to spend some more time with something you enjoy. And it's fun to see all the different types of fans out there. In fact, in the weeks to come, we're going to visit all the different types of fans to be found out there. The good, the bad, and the, well, just everyone. So get ready to explore all of the potential true fans out there, from know-it-alls to elitists to the casual and the guru, and many, many more. It's going to be quite the wild ride. What type of fan do you think you are? Share your experiences down below. This has been Shipper's Guide to the Galaxy. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to check out social media to stay up to date, and as always, stay tuned, for there are as many ships out there as there are stars in the sky.